All
Yeah.
right. I have begun recording.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. And then maybe give you a little bit gift of time if we can move quickly. So just a big project update is that I did my software developer, the team that will actually do the enhancements, that work was kicking off today. And the new fields will hopefully, if all goes well, will get released either Tuesday night or Wednesday night of next week. Okay, so that you would see those fields in there. The one change from the list that was decided between Stacy and Anna was that the sponsor field A, we're going to call it executive sponsor, and they actually wanted it linked to results users because they thought that they feel that that's a benefit that we would be able to filter and sort with that. So just what I can do is, because we want to, the way results works is that your results account does not get created until your first login. So if there's any sponsors that have yet to log into results, I can force their account. I can do an import of their names so that we don't have to go bother them to say, oh, please log in so we could start using your name in results. Okay, so we can approach that next week when we're ready, but I have a workaround on that, so you don't have to bother those individuals. But that was a decision that they made. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to show my screen, and today the goal is to get you trained so that you could start doing the work of all the loading. Okay, you can see results now, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to walk you through everything. And Michelle and I, when we were doing all the work with Stacy's project managers, we created 2 job aids. One she sent over, which is the job aids that the project managers use to do the monthly updates. We also created a job aid for her role of doing the setup and the shutdown of new projects and closing out a project. So that's the additional one that I asked her for again today, so that you guys can also have that. Plus you would have this video as well. And plus you can call me. So don't worry about bothering me. I'm happy to get on the phone for, a quick 5 minutes along the way. Okay.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah. So let me point out the way that this works. So I'm logged in as an administrator. I believe what we're going to do for both of you is create you and set you up as a power user. So when I go under, I'm going under the head under the hood for Jennifer's role. She goes under this manage users. Okay, and this is going to be important for you. You need to understand this, in that depending on how we set everything up on what your map names are, someone had already created a map or a container called Rapid Governance. So I made both of you a power user, so you can do all the setup and edit permissions there. Okay, and I did that for both of you, so you can both work in this area and do all the setup. Now, you guys, I gave you the assignment to say, are we taking all the new projects? Are they all going to go under Rapid Governance, or did you want to break them up into multiple maps, like work source or whatever, fraud, whatever the other options are? Did you guys decide?
Now, Sean, my thought was they would all be under Rapid Governance because we could filter out the subs that are only owned by WorkSource, in your view, if you need. Is that accurate, Chris, though, that we could?
Well, we have to come up with a tag. So might, the only way to do that would be if under, trying to think of a way to do that, because under projects, are you guys going to use the field called the project code?
Yeah, I thought we were going to use that for the
The
funding
funding
source.
source, okay, so we have that. I'm just trying to think, where would I put that tag? So I'm wondering is if you probably maybe want two maps, maybe one that says rapid governance and one that says, what do you call it, work source or workforce?
Work source. I guess, and that would be fine for me so long as it's not a bunch of extra work, like in the sense that, let's say there are like projects that span, it's an agency and it's work source, and then there are projects that only are work source. So, he still needs visibility pretty much into being able to see them all, but maybe not necessarily having to report all of them on a dashboard, if that
So
makes sense.
what Stacy, remember this might be an action item for you guys to follow up, is that Stacy said that only projects that go in the governance dashboard will go in results. So if it doesn't meet the criteria, if you have other level of projects, she didn't want them to go in results.
So I thought the concept was only those projects that need to go through governance will be added to the system, but I did not know that that also meant projects that are in governance are all reported on a dashboard, and that dashboard has to be the, one singular DB. So I might have jotted down those notes incorrectly.
Yeah, and then possibly I just didn't understand it. That to me means the same thing, is that I thought that basically, and I remember asking Stacy that, is that so if you want, I mean, it's easy for me to filter out um, and create another map for non-governance that are only the work source ones. We would just on this list for all maps, right? You would have rapid governance and then you would have those as well. And we could exclude those from the dashboard. That is really easy to do. You just need to run it by Stacy. It's not my call.
Well, meaning for work source, so these are all projects that are within the governance world for work source, and work source is a subsystem of agency. So in some cases, agency will also be reporting on some of the work source projects. Some of the others they will not. So what makes the most sense then for mapping? I'll follow your lead there, but
I think you
my
should
thought was
create,
that,
I think you should create
yeah.
your own. I think so. Is it, I'm sorry, and what
Mhm.
is it, work source?
Source. Yeah.
Work source with a capital S, yeah.
Okay,
Like one word, work
is it one
source,
word?
one word. Hmm.
Okay,
Work and then a capital SOURC, yeah.
right there. I think you should just go ahead and we can remove it. But I think you should, after the phone call, I think that you just run it by Stacy. And then it allows us more options on the filtering of the dashboards. So I think that's the best. And then what I think I should do is out of the gate then, if you guys want, is that you can only
Uh,
be, go ahead.
Sorry, last question. So if we have, which I'm fine with, if we have two separate maps, one for agency governance projects and one for work source projects, will there still be the ability to cross over any projects that live on both maps, or do they have to? That was something we talked about at the very beginning. Do they?
They'll just be on the dashboard. So they'll have a primary home and that's what map they're on. On the dashboard, they're just, everything can come together and we can filter and sort. It does not prohibit us from doing whatever dynamic relationship you want on the dashboard.
Yeah, because it's still
So one project could be displayed on multiple dashboards.
Correct.
Okay, then that should be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Because
that works.
that was my only concern, was just that, if we had the same information, if you're reporting on a project on the agency governance map and I'm reporting on the same project on the work source governance map, that information would be the same.
Yeah, it would be the same. That's the benefit, right? Is that we're basically
Cool.
we're creating an additional tag that allows us to do a little bit more in dashboard world, but it doesn't change the information.
Nice, perfect. Well, thank you. Thanks for helping us come to that conclusion.
Yeah.
Worksource map it is.
So what I just did though was that I made each of you a power user, and I made Sean the power user for rapid governance map, and I made Adrielle the power user for the worksource map. Now, if you need to flip that or change it just for a little bit of time, you can ask Jennifer to say, hey, Jennifer, you know, hey, hey, it's Sean. Adrielle's out. I need to do some edits on her map. Can you make me the power user for that map? Okay.
Gotcha.
And so it's very easy. It takes her 5 seconds to do. So when you guys log in, instead of admin, you're going to see power user. Okay. So under power user, when you're going to see the word, I forget if it might just name your map. So basically you come under your power user and you go to your map. Okay. And you're only going to see the one map that you're basically a junior admin. So you're a junior admin for one particular map. So you go to your map. Okay. And you do edit. Okay. Now, this is the setup of the measures. So part 1 is how do I set up my measures? Part 2 is setting up the projects. Okay, so I recommend that you always set up your measures first. Okay, so the way that you'll see here are the goals. Okay, each project is required to have a goal. Okay, even if you want to call it NA, it needs to have it gives us more flexibility on the dashboard to have something in the data warehouse. So if there's no goal that you can name yet, just put NA and just tag it as that. Okay. Then what we're going to do is on the, I'm just going to create something and we could kill it. So you're going to name your project. Okay. So first you name your project. So I'm going to put training project. Okay. And then I hit add. Okay. So each project is basically set up as its own little process. So the cadence is you name it and then you build out the piece. So under here is that I'm going to now go into edit. Okay. And you can skip all the stuff on top. Okay. Is that we now need to name the measures. Okay. I have a little job aid I'm going to send you here. Go over to this Word document. It's taking a while to update the screen. There we go. Okay. Is that on the very top is that these are the measures that each project has. Okay. And you're going to see overall health. Okay. Has the little star before and after, and it forces the order because it's going to put everything in alpha order. So by putting the little star in here in the dashboard, it forces it to be up in front. Okay. You'll see that each project has a shorthand code. Okay. And you can decide whatever that code is. Like it needs to make sense to you. Okay. So, you know, a quick little abbreviation. And then the rest of it is a little standard code that we use. Okay. So you just follow that code for each of the metrics. Now,
and is there a limitation on how many characters for that first our shorthand?
Oh, I think it's like 12, I think. Let's see. I mean, budget's pretty long with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think it's 12. Okay.
And that would be the code for the project name. It's a shorthand for the project name?
Oh, no. This is the measure. This is the code for the project measures. Okay.
But I thought those were already defined. I'm sorry,
Well, you have each, see how this one, the sample I'm showing you, like this is one of the projects. So the first 4 digits, this is one particular project. So on my training measure project I'm about to do, I might do TM, budget, TM OH, TM risk. So the first, 4 to 6 characters are your shorthand for your project. And then the rest will always stay the same, the ending. Okay.
Copy that.
Okay. All right. So now I'm going to go over back to results. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to, so I'm in my training project. So up on top, training project. So I'm going to do TP and I'm going to do budget. And then I'm going to call it budget. And then I hit add. So the same sort of cadence. I name it and then I set it up. Okay. So I'm going to do edit. Okay. And they're monthly. Okay, you're going to assign it to yourself, so or whoever's going to update it. So, and what you could do is you could do a backup. So if Sean's primary, then I might, you know, like, so that you guys, if one of you guys are out, it allows you to you know, be each other's backup, so you can just flip it. Doesn't really matter. Okay, so the one trick to here though, okay, is that you're going to see it populates. You see how it pops up in black under my typing?
Mm-hmm.
Click on it. That you have to click on it to actually select it. So if I just tab out of here, it might not really stick. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Adriel's name. I select it. Okay, and then it's good. Now these measures are good high. They're always good high. And scorecard bars, these always stay the same. Okay, and this is what will be in the job aid that you're going to get. Okay, so pretty quick. Now there's no target. Okay, and then you set up to help trigger the red, yellow, and greens. I just always put 0, 1, just in case I ever want to go back in time. I know I just do, I just make it easy. So I do 0, 1, 0, 2000. The triggers are always going to be 40 and 80. And I hit add. Okay, so one measure is created. Now what gets kind of fun is I would go back up, use the gray arrow. This is my little trick, is I go back to my training project, okay, and then I come down here. Now the next one though is that this is the rapid speed of it, is that I can do TP, like schedule, and then schedule. I name it. Now I'm going to do the cloning functionality. So it makes it go a lot faster on the measure setup. So basically like you're copying and pasting all the steps that we did. So if I do clone, okay, now I'm going to hit add, okay. Now it's going to give me some optional, is that, yeah, I want those thresholds, but I also want the measure owner and the data steward to stay the same. Okay, so I select that. And now I open this up. Okay, and I go find what do I want to clone, and I do my core process training project. It's you open it up and then I hit clone, and boom, that one's done. And then I do my same one for risk, and I hit clone, and the process just continues. I hit that again. I don't want that to be the same. I go back and I find it. And it will become second nature. I mean, the first couple of times you gotta, you know, it doesn't really matter which one, they're identical, you know, that they're monthly and my threshold. And then I do TP, so scope, right? Scope is, forget what the code is. I think that's it, scope. Hit add, do measure owner, do that. Training project, process measure.
Chris,
yes.
We're only doing this for projects that aren't already in the database. Is that
correct?
Or no? Okay.
Correct. So Michelle will
Yeah.
manage everything, right? Everything that's already like under Stacy's watch, that's all done, and she will continue to do those setups. You just have to do the other ones that are not and that fall under Michelle's responsibility.
Gotcha.
Okay, so hopefully it's not as many, because I know they seem like they have a lot of turnover of what they're doing.
And Sean, I think that kind of point of demarcation is really when, like, Michelle's only putting projects in that have already been like assigned, right, to a PM, whereas you might have some that are still, you know, like intake or whatever. And then I know I have several that aren't in there at all, so I'll probably be doing more of the data upload than you would need to do, but I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would probably be it, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's for you guys to kind of work through, but I know, you know, Stacy will want Michelle to still continue to do what she's responsible for. Okay.
Sure.
So this one is done. So all my measures are set up. So now if I wanted to, so I'm going to go and when you log in, so now I'm done with setup. Now I want to go get my data in. You guys would go to my data. Okay. All of your measures would show under my data. Okay. So it's going to look something like this. So if I search on the top for all of Sean's measures, they're all right here. Okay. So when you go to my data, this will be the list, right? And now you can see under the list, right? The project's not named, only the map is named. And that's why that shorthand is really critical, right? So you cannot, you know, so if you, it needs to make sense to you that, oh, TP is my training project measure. Okay. So then you can look on your notes and be like, oh, that's in green. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and click on it, and you're going to go straight to, because you're under my data, it's going to actually take you right to this screen here. Okay, so now you just go ahead and, you know, you guys have once a month. So if I did my March value, red is triggered by 30, yellow is 60, and green is 80. So I put my 80 in and I put in my comments. Okay, and then I hit add. Okay, now I can go back to my next one, and I can use that gray arrow here. Now, one of the things is that some of your projects are exempt from some of your some of the measures, right? For, you know, they don't have a budget or whatever, you know. So for those that basically need to stay in gray because they're not required to report, is that to get that gray value in there, is that under comments, you just put NA. Okay, now when I go back to my list, it shows in gray. So on the dashboard, we have a little legend that says gray means, you know, that measure is not required. And once you have it in gray, you no longer have to put that, you can just keep just doing that. So that makes it easy. Okay. Now, you guys recall that under Stacy's methodology, if one of my measures, so if scope was in red, so you always do your overall health, you know, the way they've been doing it. All the dates need to make sure they line up. So then I put in struggling, I'll just put struggling with scope 3. Okay, so now when I come back to my list, let's just pretend that I have everything filled out. Overall health needs to be in red because one of the other metrics is in red. Okay, so does that make sense?
There's a separate overall health measure.
Right here.
Is that what you're? Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So this one, it's not an automatic, doesn't read from the other things.
No,
we just need to, if we have one, okay.
Yeah, so then basically when you come here, because you know that one of your other metrics was in red, before they used to average it, they had a numeric value where it's like, well, how red is it or how yellow? And they would just come up with these random numbers of, you know, and then take an average, and then wherever the average fell, they then assigned it, you know, whether it was red, yellow, or green. But now last year they changed it so that if any of the PM's assessments of any of the other criteria points is either a yellow or red, it takes the lowest value. So because one of the scope was an issue, I have to now say the whole project's in red because I have one thing in red.
Okay. And then back to the measures, why would we have even created one if it was not required? Like you were saying, it'll be grayed out, but why would I?
Yeah, because on the dashboard, the senior leaders can't keep track of this project. Originally, when we designed the dashboard, it was only showing whatever metrics were required. But senior leaders were having a hard time remembering, oh, this project is exempt from that metric. So they wanted to actually have a visualization so that they can remember, oh, that project does not have, is not, usually it's budget, you know, budget is excluded, so it's in gray. It's not reported, right?
So that when I'm loading projects, I need to remember that every single one of my projects will have, I need to create every single measure for every project and just gray out any that don't
required.
apply.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, they just couldn't keep track. They have too much going on. So they wanted that, like, they wanted to make sure, oh, was it someone forgot to report on it versus the intent, no, it's not required.
Right. And NA is what grays it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. So that's all about measures. Now I'll walk you through once that's like the setup process, and I'm not gonna, we have a whole closing out process. So these projects, let me go under the hood now. Actually, I'm gonna go to Stacy's map. Once we're ready, okay, and you guys have gotten everything going, then you need to close out projects, right? So what is the close? We have a whole process about closing out projects that I'm just going to show you, and you're not going to have to remember it now because it's too much information. Is that when I go to Stacy's map, my bandwidth is a little slow here. Is that we turn things off. So we turn the project off, we turn the measures off. I'm getting a little error here. Okay, let's see. Okay. That's not catching up, the go-to. My bandwidth is, let me reshare because you're not seeing my screen.
Yeah,
I just turned it off. I turned it there. Okay, now you can see, because I can see what you see, and then okay. So now when I go to Stacy's map, okay, you'll see here these little symbols here. This little symbol means that all of these projects were turned off. Okay. So once we're ready, okay, you've done your loading. Pardon?
Sorry, when you say turned off, you mean they were closed?
Yeah, when we turn the projects off, we have to turn off the measures, okay? Because the measures no longer need to be reported. Okay, so we wanted to have a way on the dashboard to say, when do we show the metrics, and when are the metrics required to keep reporting, and when are they closed, right? Because we were archiving the projects and all the related information on it. Okay, so just know that when we're ready for when you guys have your first project to close, I will walk you through it. Okay.
Okay. Cool.
All right. So step one was creating the metrics. Now step two, okay, is creating the project. So now you're going to go over to we're going to go over to the project page, okay, and we're going to create your project. Okay, this is that code for your funding source. See, Stacy is not currently using it, okay, and if you guys want to include it in the dashboard, we just have to you need to work with Stacy to figure out what is that code, because right now if you look here, none of her projects have a code. Okay, so if I did let's just say something is like Fed, you know, I'll just call it Fed source. Okay, so whatever, let's just pretend that's one of your funding sources. You would put that here, and I'm going to call this my training project. Okay, you create you tag it, whatever priority, and then you create, I'm going to say, actually started on the 15th, and then I'm going to say it ends on April 9th or whatever, you know, and then I add it. So just like the measures, you're going to name it first. Okay, and then you can actually make it easier. I'm going to filter out. Okay, let's see. It goes, the default will be always not started. And on this pick list, okay, we're going to add those two other intake and scoping. They're not there now. So by default, anything when you're creating your projects, if you want to use that intake or scoping, you might want to just keep it at not started. And then once those two new fields, the two options get on the drop list, you can adjust it. Okay. So you name it first. Okay. And then you come in and you build out your project. So name the measures, name the project, and then build it out. So then I do edit. And your name will appear as the owner. So you as the person that's creating it will currently be the project owner. Okay. We can remembering that we're going to be changing the name. That's one of the fields that's going to flip to project manager. Okay. So all the stuff you populated will appear here and you can adjust it if you need to. You put your description in. Okay. The executive sponsor, this will be renamed as project manager, and then eventually we're going to have the operation manager. All those two new fields will be added here. Okay, you add those in. You can adjust your priority. Okay, they're all going to be level 3. That's what Stacy said. All these are level 3, so you would just flip that level 3, and then there'll be a list here of what you just. So if you want to flip it to active, just do that and I hit save. So that's just the beginning. That's kind of the foundational information. Okay, now here, this is what triggers them to be on your dashboard. So create the map. So these were under the rapid governance map. I create those relationships. And then I'm going to go find my measures. I'm going to relate my project to those measures. So similar kind of functionality where it opens up a dialog box and you just expand it. So I go to that map and I find those measures. Here's my thing. I open it and I just do add, 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 and I hit close. So now that triggers that feature. This is going to allow me when I do the dashboards to, I have that relationship in the database behind there. It creates that tagging system. Okay, now I come here and I add the goal. Okay, so I can go to any of my maps. You can go to a different map if you wanted to and create a tag. Okay, so you just hit tags and see here's the NA. I can do NA.
Quick question.
Yes.
When you're adding the measures, you will have, let's say there's 5 measures, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to have that drop-down list is going to consist of 5 times 30 if I have 30 projects, unless they were marked as an A, or excuse me, unless that project were archived or closed. I'm going to see a list.
Repeat yourself because I'm not following your question.
Sorry, when you saw that drop down to add, and you went add, you were adding the measures to the project. The list you saw was only 5 long in the drop down.
Oh yeah.
But when I do it, I'll see
all the other
5 times 30.
Yeah. So
here, the list will okay.
Let's look at Stacy's map because you can look at them, right? See, this is all per active projects. So then Michelle would just
waiting for the screen to show it. Yeah.
Oh, it's not catching up. There we go. See, like this is Stacy's list under project management. Okay. So she would just go, Michelle would just come down the list, teleworker, and then she would just open it up. Boom, boom, boom. So yeah, your list will get longer as you add more projects on your map.
Okay.
Yeah. Hit close. Add your goal. Okay. We're not adding any additional team members, but if you wanted to, that would be there. Okay. Now this is your once a month you have a little note on here, so you can put, say, on plan. This is what the project manager's, kicking off, whatever you wanted to say, or one, and you hit add. So once a month, as you add your statuses, right, and it keeps your last comments there, you would just wipe them out and then pick your new date. So pretty straightforward, right? And then add in your new one. Now, Stacy, you guys, we had the decision that only she wanted uniformity, so apples to apples, on what your 5 tasks are. And I created on that same Word document. Let me go and show you. Let's see. Okay, let's see if my go-to is updating. I'm trying to share my, there we go. It's just really slow. Okay, so on the projects, you're always going to have the same 5 tasks, okay? And just like the measures, right, we created a little schema for the 5 tasks. So your 5 tasks are always called charter sign, closeout completed, lessons learned, PMP approved, scheduled, developed. Now on your task codes, we flipped it. No, it's the same. You're always, so this is just a longer project name. So it's, this one is the CARE project, but then we did a little abbreviation. So CARE CS for charter sign, CARE against the project code there, plus CO, LL for lessons learned, PMP for PM approved, and SD for scheduled developed. Okay. So then you go back over, now you kind of walk you through that. So now when I'm, this one here, okay. Let's see, let me, my screen catch up. That's really quite the lag. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to say this is my training project. I'm going to add my task, TP, and then I'm going to put, I think, what was it? I forget, on charter, forget what it was, charter, I forget
It
what
was
it
charter
was.
signed, charter signed, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
Okay. Yeah, I think so. So was that CS? Yeah. Okay. And
Now,
then,
is it possible to add projects that don't have any tasks? Like if it's just in here to be a reporting item that we don't necessarily need to track tasks on?
yes, those were
Okay.
optional. So what
NA.
we, pardon?
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say put NA, but no, that's not the solution,
Yeah,
right?
so what we did was on those, we put in a note on the very first update is, so instead of this one, and just so that you have a record of it, is we did, you could do NA, that's option 1. Sometimes we went ahead and did, we just put task not required in the notes there. So we could do either or, but I think that's what we're doing. Because the way the visualization on the task work is was a little bit different. But you guys might, I mean, the thing of it is that I think we didn't want to put NA because if a task, I mean, but you would always have those tasks because they're so generic, right? I think there was a few that we did that were canceled projects. Or maybe if they were in intake, you wouldn't do them yet, right? Until you got to act.
Right, exactly. That's kind of what I was thinking, like intake projects that are like going intake or scoring. We don't have a decision yet. We just wanted to be able to throw them in there
Yeah.
very high level with like no work and just like the name and the owner basically. And then if they became a project, that was
Then
something different. They would eventually be transitioned to a project manager who would fill out all that detail.
Yeah. So the one thing though, and this is where you guys would have to work out with Stacy, is her project managers never set up the task. That's Michelle's job. So, so I would think if it moves from intake to scoping to an actual project, if it goes to Michelle, then she could finish the setup for you. If it goes to other people, I would say that you guys should set them up just so that, because they're not going to understand the business rules of how we're setting things up.
I think for Sean's projects, they're going to always go to Michelle. Mine will probably stick with me for now until we figure out whether or not we're going to like start adding more people to
Yeah.
use this. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so you just, you finish setting up the other ones. Oh, I didn't actually hit add. So, training projects, CF, charter, can't type. You assign it to yourself or the project manager. So all I have right now is there. And the dates always have to, there's some business rules here, if it makes sense, is that, see, like I did one, a task start date. If I put in my project started March 15th, I can't have a task start before my project kicks off. So you just have to make sure if you get an error, we'll tell you what the issue is. Okay. So I added it, and now they always start as not started. So what the project managers do is on the 5th, by the 4th or whatever, they come in once a month. They add in this update here for my status update, and they come in down to their task and do any updates here. So they would come down here, they would hit edit. Okay, they would move it to active or completed, and then they would put in their comments here. Okay, so that's what they did. So they come in. So if I kind of go from the start, they log in. Okay, they would go to my data. Let me catch my screen up for you. God, it's really slow. The go-to is not catching because I can see that you guys are still. So they go to their home screen. They click on my data. And then when they get to my data, they're going to see, let me show you. They see, I'm logged in as a generic admin. I don't have anything assigned to me. Okay. So when they come here, they would see their measures here. They could actually come here to update their task and this, click on here and edit. They would still have to go to the project though and do that status update. They can't get to that screen. They have to go to the projects to do that. Okay. So any questions?
Mine is only about, again, those crossover projects. So, assuming Stacy's kind of at the back end of Sean's governance process. He goes through and he might have maybe 5 projects or right now that are not in results today because they haven't hit Stacy's team yet. They haven't been approved and assigned. So let's say he creates maybe 5 projects. They're in there with just light information, maybe an owner, and the fact that they're in intake or scoring phase. Once they're approved, that project then is moved to Michelle. It's the same record, right? That's moved then to Michelle, and then.
So I have a clarifying question. Do you need to ever keep, so a project comes in, it's tagged as rapid governance. Okay. Oh, can you hear us, Sean, now?
I can, yeah. I just the VPN disconnected and then it's reconnected now,
Okay.
but I lost pretty much everything that Ardrell was asking.
Okay, so let me recap. A project comes in, okay, it's on the rapid governance under intake and scoping. It gets approved and it gets launched and it moves over to Stacy's. Okay. Now I would imagine that Stacy's going to want it to be on her dashboard.
Yep.
Okay. So then my question first is, does it need to retain the rapid governance tag, or should we move it over to her project management map?
So that's why I'm getting so confused. Is the project management map and the rapid governance map will have almost all of the same projects on them, except those that are intake and scoring that may or may not be picked up.
So let me show you. I can go under the hood. Okay, is that what I believe should happen? This is my recommendation. Is say that my I'm going to come over here. So my training project, okay, is it was in scoping. It's now been approved to launch. Okay, so I'm going to come over here. Okay, I'm going to move all of my measures and put them on Michelle's map. They're going to move off the rapid governance and they're moving over to project management. So then what I do is I just hit move and I'm going to move it over here. Now I have to create the name of that project over here to say where do they get moved to. Okay, but we can do that. So I move everything over there. Okay. And so,
because I thought when we talked last time, so now I'm getting turned around a little bit. When we talked last time, I thought you said all projects are going to be under governance and only those that needed to go to Stacy's would also be flagged, or there would be some trigger that would show which ones show up on Stacy's dashboard versus which ones show up on the
right. So
dashboard.
we're just moving them. We're moving the primary responsibility over off of Sean to Stacy.
Okay.
So that's by moving them off of the rapid governance ownership. They are now moving to the ownership under Stacy under project management.
And can, although he's no longer owning them, would that same project still be able to show up on two dashboards?
Yes.
On Stacy's and okay, perfect.
It's just who's responsible
or three.
for updating it, right?
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
perfect. Awesome. Perfect.
Could be three. Yeah.
Right, Sean? Because like in the beginning, while they're, let me just validate my thinking. While they're in intake and scoping, Sean, you manage them. You're responsible for the updates.
Yep. No, I do. And this process works, I think, because if it does get approved, so your example with the training project, I meet with Stacy and we basically do a transition. So this would just be a step in that transition.
Yep. You would move them off of your move them off your map. Michelle would go in and remove your name from being the measure owner because you're no longer responsible, right? And flip up to whatever project manager is assigned to them. So we would just have to build that handoff because we haven't done that yet. But but they're only in the database once. They could, you know, so that way when we are doing Stacy's dashboard, she sees everything that is under her responsibility, which is defined by they're assigned to the project management team.
Perfect. Okay.
Yep.
And then for mine's kind of the reverse in the sense that on my dashboard report, I may want to show some of Stacy's projects, some of Sean's projects, likely not, but some of Stacy's projects on the WorkSource dashboard, but we're not going to own them. I just want to be able to show them their status, right? And then the rest of mine probably won't even go on Stacy's dashboard ever. There may be a few that are escalated up the chain, but for the most part, they're going to live on only, you know, my sub area.
Yeah. Okay.
I think Sean needs to drop here. So if there's no other training pieces, I think this has been awesome.
Yeah. So then you're going to get, let me just show you. So Michelle just last week on Friday, it's really slow. She sent you a Word document on how to do, come on, it's really slow. So there's two job aids. One is about the setup of the project and measures. She just sent that out. I just saw that came through on my email. And this Word document is the one of once everything is set up and you're just doing the monthly updates on the measures and the project, this is your job aid for that. Okay. And you guys could add some additional notes. You could take the job aid and make it your own. But I thought this would be a good starting point for you. Okay.
Cool. Well, I'm
Perfect.
sure once we get into practice, we'll have questions. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, good luck. And
Awesome. Well, this is
just send me,
exciting.
if you get stuck, don't you could ask Michelle, ask me. It's usually like a 2-minute question. So don't feel like you have to schedule a meeting. You could just send me a note and say, hey, you got 2 minutes to get on the phone. And I can just remind you of what you're forgetting. Okay?
And cool. And then
Perfect.
Chris, I know for this recordings, they're usually large because especially if you share a screen, trying to think of where you could
So
post
what
it.
I'll do is I'll have my IT guy, he could put it on a private page and I can send you the link that you can access.
Okay, that'd be great.
Like we can download it and
Yeah.
save it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. We'll talk to you guys later.
Super.
Thank
Yep,
you.
appreciate it. All right.
Okay.
We'll
Bye.
see y'all. Bye-bye.
I know.